your life is like as a nurse. I think that we just went live on Facebook Live. I'm here with Emily Dvorak to talk about what your life is like as a nurse right now in the pandemic. And Emily, it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much for having me. Just to give a little bit of a background, I have been working at Cayuga Medical Center since 2009. I spent the first 10 years as a registered nurse there on the surgical floor, where I specialized more in ostomies and wounds, but I would go to all different parts of the hospital. And now I'm currently a nurse practitioner. So I went back to school and I'm working as a hospitalist.
What does that mean to be a hospitalist?
So it's a hospitalist is a dedicated inpatient provider who works solely in the hospital setting. And so the difference between us and a primary care physician is that we take over when conditions get really severe, so much so that it can no longer be managed at home. And so in another sense, we are acute to critical care internal medicine specialists. And so critical care means anything that's in the emergency department or the ICU, and the acute care is just like the rest of the hospital. And so I primarily do the rest of the hospital.
And so when you go into the hospital these days, you're going to Cayuga Medical Center, which is where, and when you go into the hospital these days, where do you go physically in the hospital? Where's your place that you're going to?
Everywhere. I mean, I have an office that's a shared office up on the third floor, but my responsibility spans multiple units. I admit people out of the emergency room once they've already been triaged. I see people on the medical floor, surgical floor, telemetry floor, and occasionally people in the rehab unit and the ICU. So
and what are you seeing?
Kind of like
it's everywhere. So are you seeing as many people come through as you used to see before the pandemic hit, or now?
No, it was very, very strange because we had been hearing stories of what had been happening in Italy and China, and we were just expecting to be hit by this wave. And so when everything shut down, it became very much different than what we expected. The halls were quiet. There was nobody there. There were very, very few patients because all of a sudden everybody was afraid to come into the hospital because they were afraid of contracting COVID. And so it was like a ghost town. And it was just bizarre. And now it's beginning to pick up a little bit.
I'll bet that felt really spooky because you're seeing all the stories about the pandemic hitting all over the place, and then you see your quiet hallways.
Yeah. It honestly, it felt like the calm before the storm. I was talking with another provider who had been a 9/11 responder and who had been in combat, and she says this type of anxiety about the waiting, it's the same as if waiting to go into war. It's like pre-PTSD. It's horrible. You know something's bad going to happen, but you don't know exactly when. And thankfully, that other shoe hasn't dropped in our community. And I'm very thankful for that. And I really hope it doesn't happen.
Why do you think that is, that we haven't had the same wave? Do you think it's because we did a good job of doing our social distancing early?
I have to credit everybody out there. I mean, I know that it's really hard to be told stay away from your family and friends, but because of everybody, I think, really grasping the severity of this situation, that we were really able to flatten the curve by staying at home, by not going out when you're sick, by doing all the things that we've been told to do. And it's really hard because I do hear some people saying, oh, this is a conspiracy. This is just everybody trying to control. No, you're doing me a favor. So thank you very much for that. It works.
Tell me some more about that. What is the big favor that we're doing here?
The big favor is that by staying at home, by flattening the curve, you are you're allowing other people to have access to the medical care that they really need. And by not going out there and doing something frivolous and then getting really sick and then having to have all that intensive care, which of course we're happy to provide, but if we can avoid it that's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for the hospital. It's going to be better for the community. And so I still would continue to ask that people stay at home, until we are told to do otherwise.
So even though
Um,
it's spooky in there without as many patients, that's preferable, right? To
it
what
is.
alternative would be.
It is, but it is beginning to pick up because the people were staying at home when they really shouldn't have. Because for the first week or two, we were wondering, where are the heart attacks? Where are the strokes? Where are these people who always come in regardless? And nobody was coming in. But now that the trickle's coming back, people are much, much sicker. So, I would also urge that if you really are sick, like, please come to the hospital. We take care of, we take all sorts of precautions, we clean, we're going to do our best to not get you sick and spread things. So, it is picking up, but people are really, really sick.
Okay, so I'd like to go back to what your work plan is. So you don't work with the folks in the emergency room. You work with folks sort of throughout the whole hospital. And so
Yeah, it's
so you're kind of doing it all, Emily.
well, so yeah, I mean, the emergency physicians, they get the people there, they triage them, and they do all the initial things that they need to do to stabilize them. But then I also get down in there and I order more tests if I'm going to admit somebody. So I'm still doing sort of some things in the emergency room, and then they come up to the floor and then I take care of them there.
So what sort of schooling did you have to do to become a hospitalist, to become an RN?
It's so to become a nurse practitioner, well, there's several degrees. I've been to 4 different schools. I've been through University of Buffalo, TC3, Kaplan, and now Binghamton University. And so to become
wait a minute. Let me go back. Okay, so you are one highly educated person. You've been to 4 different universities?
Yes.
It's incredible.
I have done a lot. And so really to become a nurse, things are changing. The requirements in New York State are changing. To become a registered nurse, you have to have your bachelor's. You can also be an LPN, which is, so the grades go LPN, registered nurse, and nurse practitioner, and then doctorate nurse practitioner. And so it's a 4-year schooling to become a registered nurse and another 2 to 3 to become a nurse practitioner. But I took my sweet time.
That's exceptional. Are you glad you're a hospitalist? Do you like that program?
I really do, because I've worked with them for my entire career, and I just love how they swoop in these critical situations and they help out, and they, really work closely with the nurses and the aides and the staff. I just love how they have a broad range of what they do and who they help. So, yeah.
One of the things that I know the governor did early on in the pandemic was he started allowing people who are qualified to practice nursing in other states to come to New York and begin being nurses. But at the same time, I also know that there's a lot of people who are nurses here who are looking for work. And also, we have a shortage of nurses generally, even without a pandemic.
Yep.
Given all this schooling that you've gone through, it sounds like there's kind of a pipeline of different levels of nurses that can do different layers of care.
Yeah.
Do you think we need more nurses out there? Do you feel like there's a shortage of nurses where you are? What are you thinking?
There's always a shortage of nurses here and everywhere else, I think, and it's getting worse because it's hard work. People are not necessarily wanting to get into it. And if they do, now that New York State has put down this requirement of becoming a bachelor's. So back when I started, you could spend 2 years and become a nurse and come out with the same pay as a bachelor's nurse and everything else. But now there's these hurdles. Now you have to spend 4 years to get out. So that's another barrier that prevents people from getting into the front line. And yeah, so it's hard work. And I think, not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody wants to be around sick people. So it takes a special person.
It does take a special person. Thank you for doing it, Emily. It's tremendous.
Thank you.
There's a story that you personally decided to change something about yourself pretty significantly right when the pandemic started? What
Right.
was it that you wanted to do?
So I ended up cutting off all my hair. My hair was down to here and it was really nice. But, I had been in a COVID patient's room. I had my everything else on. I just didn't have a face cover. And I was leaning down to take a listen to Heart, Lungs, and Tummy, and she just coughed all over my hair. And I was like, whoa! So I ended up just making the decision for infection control reasons, because at that point, my hair was just at a funky length where I had to straighten it to get it up into a ponytail to just cut it off. And so I did it on Facebook.
All your hair. You just cut it all off.
All off because I didn't want to deal with it. It was going to be easier to take care of and manage and hopefully not get bugs on and transmit to other people. So
that's pretty extraordinary, Emily. Not only are you dedicating your own work time and yourself to taking care of your patients, but you also chose to cut off all your hair so that you can be safe and healthy. That's amazing. What sorts of things can we do to help you personally, as far as masks, as far as what you need for PPE? Are you getting what you need? Is there something communities can do to help you out?
We, for the most part, are getting what we need. The thing that we still lack are N95 masks. I've been using the same N95 mask for 3 weeks, sterilizing it and doing all that stuff to clean it. But if we can get more, that would be great. And other than that, the cloth masks we don't need them because we're not allowed to use them in the hospital, but I would still encourage people to make them and give them to other people. But right now, what would be helpful are the headbands that have buttons on them, or the button straps to be able to keep the masks off the ears. And the other thing that people are more and more utilizing are surgical scrub caps. So the things that can cover the hair, because not everybody has lovely short hair like I do to make it easy to wash. And some people don't want to wash their hair every day. So to be able to cover it is another barrier to infection.
And are people out there in the community making surgical scrub caps just out of regular fabric, kind of like the cloth masks that people are making?
It's fabric, and it's really not that hard. There's a YouTube video that has there's multiple YouTube videos that have free patterns and free instructions, and it's really not hard to do. I've made multiple myself. So it would be a lovely gesture, but of course not expected.
Well, I think it's tremendous. As I'm listening to you, not only are you a nurse, not only did you cut off all your hair so that you can be safer and transmit or have less surface area to carry germs, but also then you're making your own surgical scrub cap to wear. So that's fantastic, Emily. That's really giving above and beyond of yourself. What are you doing to take care of yourself right now? How do you come home and get yourself a break from the?
That's a good question. I do, honestly, crafting for other people has been huge. Making the scraps, making the masks, making everything. I'm baking bread currently. I'm trying my hand at a sourdough starter. I do jigsaw puzzles and I play with my kids. So and go for walks. Getting outside is really important. That's what I've been doing.
That's important. That's good. Do you have any particularly funny stories or anything that has happened? I don't know if there's anything funny happening in this experience for you right now, but I'm curious if you're able to find humor anywhere.
I am. It's been a little bit harder since the whole COVID thing started, but when a little bit ago, sometimes patients will surprise you. I mean, you're taking care of people in a crisis mode and they're really at their most vulnerable, but I love it when their personality can surprise you. Like I was taking care of a gentleman who had a stroke, totally paralyzed on one side, partially paralyzed on the other. And his sense of humor was so amazing. He decided to play a prank on us, and he had his daughter get this really dried out, marinated like piece of cooked chicken. It just looked awful. And he hid it in his bed, like he was going to put it in his bedpan and have us discover it. But we found the piece of chicken in his bed before he could play the prank on us. But we all had a really good belly laugh. And I love that he could have that sense of humor about his situation. And so you get little gems like that every now and then.
That's tremendous. You probably need that there in the in the quiet hospital where you're waiting for the other shoe to drop and then hoping that it doesn't drop and that we all keep social distancing and keep this curve flatter.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Emily, I really appreciate you taking the time. I've done a little bit of research here while we've been talking, and it looks like you can still begin as, I just want to clarify, you can still begin as an RN with an associate's degree in New York State. I think that might be the rule.
Actually, yeah.
Is that right? And
it is right. I forgot about that, but yes, but then you have to get your bachelor's within 10 years, I think it is.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point for folks to know, because as you're saying, we need more nurses. We have a huge shortage. I know that, I'm on the foundation board at TC3 where there's a nursing program, and, we're always looking for more ways to educate more nurses and get them out into the community. So thank you very much for doing what you do to help keep us all safe and healthy. And let's hope that more folks decide to join up in your profession, because goodness knows we need them. Mm-hmm. Emily, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about nursing and how important it is right now in the pandemic and what we as a community can do to help you help us. Thanks for being out there on the front lines with us. And we'll get the word out that surgical scrub caps are what we need. Headbands with buttons are what we need. And you need some more N95 masks. And we'll see if we can shout out about that too.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.